I am so excited. Today I have Peter Mitchell with me, and Peter I have known for a while, and he is an amazing person, and he has the best stories to tell, I know, because I've had opportunities to be in touch with this family and hear some of how they all got here. His grandfather, who he was named after, came through New York to East Lyme and had a wagon, and he was carrying vegetables and nuts, I believe, on his wagon. So glad to hear that story. Peter is a UVM alum, University of Vermont up in Burlington, studied in Chernobyl, has been a world traveler, runs the theater in East Lyme Niantic, the Niantic Cinema, and is interested in what goes on in the town. He is, I want to ask him about a HEPA is another organization that he's involved with, and also what he thinks we should be doing with the ARP money, the American Rescue Plan, because there's been a big chunk of change that's been appropriated to our town. So what's the best interest? He's lived here for a long time. I'm a newbie compared to him. He grew up here, was born in the area. So Peter Mitchell, I am so excited to have you with me today as a guest.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you.
So I'd really like to start with the story about your namesake, your grandfather.
There's some amount of different stories. There's 2 or 3 different stories of how that happened. One was he pushed this vegetable cart from Niantic to New London all the time and really wished he had a better education. And Mitchell College, he was aware of Mitchell College and then took that as his own name. And I don't think that was the truth. I think that at Ellis Island he had more of a confusion where they did not know what the Greek form of Michael's
So
is.
what was the name?
So it was Michaelides,
okay.
and then that's just son of Michael.
Okay.
In Greek. So probably there was a Mitchell in line with my grandfather, and they said, well, that Mitchell sounds great, so you're going to be Pete Mitchell, and so that ended with that. And there's also Mitchell Street in Groton, so there's different things that he was aware of, but I tend to think it was just something at Ellis Island. They just, okay, we'll stamp this and
right. So many names
move
like
on,
that.
and
even my name steal.
And
right.
it's just, which is, and it's fine. I mean, no one calls me Michaelides.
Right.
My father does on a brief occasion, but it's really just a name. And,
so tell me about coming across, though, the selling of the peanuts and the vegetables.
I think that there was like a steady genocide going on in Turkey, and he lived in a village up by the Black Sea near the Russian border, and this was happening. The Armenians and the Greeks that lived in Turkey slowly were being exterminated, for lack of a better word. I mean, that's what was happening. And I think he realized there was nothing left for him. And so he got out of there. I think he spent a little bit of time in Istanbul, and then I think he got on the wrong boat and ended up in Brazil, and then came to the United States, and then you have to have some family here in the area. I think that was part of how the immigration worked. You had to have like a sponsor, and so I think that he had relatives here, and now this is a very large Greek community. There's There's 2 churches, Norwich and New London. So I think since probably 1917, he lived here, and then I think in the 30s, early 30s, late 20s, he went back to Greece and spending time with his family and extended family at that point. and I think he was introduced to my grandmother. And she was a Greek from what's now Izmir, Turkey. So Smyrna, they call it Smyrna in Greek, and Istanbul, Greek people call Constantinople, which is what it was before, whatever, 1453. But and they don't, Greek people don't frequently call Turkey Turkey. They call it Asia Minor, and they call it Anatolia, and they call it everything but Turkey. But there's a lot of culture from Anatolia and that coast of Turkey, a lot of Greek people. And I don't consider myself connected to Aristotle. Like, I don't think a lot of people consider themselves connected to John Adams or, or but a lot of culture came from that part of Turkey, which was just a Greek settlements all along the coast there.
Well, you think about Greek mythology and all of the history and all.
Well, the Iliad, and
right.
It's all from Troy, and Troy was, I think the way everything's in reverse of the way it is here. That's the west coast of Turkey, I guess. Yeah, the west coast. It's tremendous amount of history there, and I frequently feel very distant from that. I don't really feel I'm very proud of that, but there's a distance too. Like I don't know like how many French people are like, oh, my people deciphered Egyptian hieroglyphics, the Champ de Lion, I think, who came from Grenoble. So anyways, there's a huge history of Greeks in Anatolia, and I think in the 20s. I think it had been going on since the 1450s, but in the 1920s, it was there was quite a big exodus. There's a population swap between Turkey and Greece. I think they decided that this is probably the best thing for us. And so there's a whole part of Athens called Nea Smyrni, where they lived in Athens. And that just means new Smyrna, new Izmir, and it's all these people largely from Smyrna. So I think he went back and forth quite a bit. There's pictures of me over in Athens when I was a little baby, but that's somewhere my parents would go frequently on vacation, and my sisters all studied over there and went to boarding camp, I guess, summer school. So it's a sort of a place that holds a lot of nice memories.
Nice.
For me, I was kind of on the tail end of that. I'm about 10 years younger than my sisters, 7 to 10 years younger. So
you're the youngest in the family.
The youngest, and and the only boy, so I kind of cut my own path, and
well, good for you.
Yeah.
My husband is the youngest. He has 3 older sisters, and so it's interesting that birth order, and then having 3 females in front of you or before you. And I had the opposite experience. I had 6 older brothers, and then me, so I had kind of a slightly interesting but opposite experience from that. But no, it's all very interesting, and I think it all melds into who we are as people and our culture and what matters to us. I've only been to Greece once, and I went to Corfu. It was on the outer edges of Greece, so I would love to go back. I was just talking to a mutual friend yesterday about a trip to Greece and some of the places that I would like to go and visit there.
And I think the islands in the Aegean are very different from, I think Corfu is like a strong Italian influence.
It is.
And whereas like Santorini and Mykonos, Evia, that's like very much a Greek culture there. And my mother's family was from Peloponnesus, the very south of Greece. So
it's a world
little
away, and
different.
it's a whole nother world.
It's a whole nother way. It's whole, yeah. And we did go to her village when I was in college. I went with a classmate of mine when I was in Grenoble. We just were like, yeah, I'd love to go to Greece, and then nobody else wanted to go, or they'd gone at that point. So the two of us took off, and Corfu was the first place that the boat stopped from Italy, and.
Are you able to speak and read? No.
Very little, which is unfortunate. My sisters do speak and understand quite a bit, and I not so much. But it's a bit of a steel plate there. I don't ever absorb it. Don't quite absorb. But
if you went and stayed for a while, I'm sure you'd pick it up really quickly. If you're fluent in French, you got your degree in French at UVM. You told me.
It was French and English. I just really thought, oh well, if you do this long enough, you'll be able to go over there, and I was thinking. Something as a journalist or like a field journalist, something maybe I would be working in Morocco or Tunisia or something like that. I love that idea of this wanderlust of just going away and traveling, and so France was always.
And you lived there for a year.
I lived there for about a year, and in high school I lived with another family for about a month and a half, and I've gone back to meet them. They're kind of like aunts and uncles to me, and their kids are like my cousins. I feel like they're my cousins, and they're just so. It's just that was just a beautiful experience, and they've come here and spent time with us. So it's very much like extended family, which is a great experience.
Absolutely. Well, isn't it Mark Twain? What he has a quote about travel, like it will help to diminish any kind of preconceived, any prejudice that you have. If you just kind of put your shoes on, pack your bag, get out the door, and go to another country, you'll realize how vast and beautiful and amazing this world is.
And there's some things that are just very straightforward about everyone does things, has needs, and does things. And I was, as a kid in like high school, just oblivious to these things, and it was amazing to go over there. And then this last time in 2013, I had very practical needs, and I'm like quizzing the French son that I lived with over there in France, and I said, "How do you pay for at the toll booth? How does that work?" And he just thought that was the most bizarre thing. I'm like, I don't think my credit card works here, because they were just starting those chipping of cards.
Right.
So I was like, I ran off and got like a Marriott credit card to kind of make sure that it would work at the gas stations. And it was when I went in high school, that was the mid '80s, and they were like, "Oh, you use a telecard in the toll phones," and just like here, phones have gone by the wayside.
Exactly.
So that technology and the telecart and
well, it's kind of like if you get a new car after you haven't gotten a new car for a while. If you hang on to your car for a long time, all of a sudden you're like, I have to Bluetooth it. I have to.
Yes. Oh my God! All this new technology. Exactly. So.
What, remember traveler's checks back in the day? Like, and I think if you ask somebody now what a traveler's check is, they would be like a kid. Well, they would be like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh, that was it. I had traveler's checks, I guess, from, I don't know, they were probably given as gifts when I was born. So that was what I went to France with. And I would go to the Banque de France, and you would sign the back of them, and they would give you the value of whatever they were in francs. And then I'm like, how does that work now? And it's like, you idiot, it's just through your ATM card. Simple. And it's a beautiful place, and there's so much history there, just like in Greece. And I think Greece, they haven't really I didn't see as much as I think I've seen much more of France than I think I've seen of Greece. And in France, everything is like super clean, and the Roman monuments are very clean, and there's these huge viaducts, and I don't know if I really saw quite that. And Italy is somewhat the same too, like the Forum in Rome. It's like, oh, that's very old, and then they build a museum next to it. In Italy, they've always do.
We lost your mic, so yeah, thank you.
At any rate.
Thank you for fixing that. So I just wanted to talk to, because we are in the middle of COVID, and COVID has just impacted all of us so much. And I know you and I have both been vaccinated and boosted, and we're all
Booster shot.
Yeah, and I know you have what you call it, vaccine.
Yeah, vaccinated customer day at the cinema,
or something like that.
Yeah, tried to put a little French spin on it, of course. I had just heard about a theater in New Hampshire that was doing this, and they had quite a shift in their business.
I just want to adjust this.
Oh, sure.
Sorry. There we go.
That's great.
So yeah, Cinevax, because I think people are afraid. There's just a lot of fear, and we've been living a different life for the last 2 years. I feel like I've lost some friends, people I used to see and hang out with. Now all of a sudden, we just got afraid to be in their company, and it's all been difficult. So how have you? I know you closed the theater for a while.
Closed twice, I believe. I have to think about it. I think it was sort of maybe the middle of
things got bad in March, right?
Things really started to spin down, and then I think they came up with a program which the theater took part of, and it was if you keep your staff on. We got a loan. So I think we stayed open through maybe May, and we were getting like 6 people a day, which was just nothing. Like you can't really make things work
you have to
like
heat
that.
It. Yeah, it's high vaulted ceilings, and yeah. So
it was not a viable business at that point. So we did close again, and I think then we. Ledge Light came up with some social distancing and how to be 6 feet apart from people, and they came up with a lot of very clear language. So we put that all in place and got the visors into the theater and reopened. And I think we were just open about a month and a half, and it was again like 5 and 6 people a day. Well, they were telling people, like, if you have customers that are older than 65, tell them to stay home. It's like, well, that's our whole clientele.
Right.
It's a large part of our client. So, and it was something that was happening nationwide at that point. Like, the chains had closed. And with that, a lot of movies were not in distribution.
Right.
So it was like very hard to get movies. We started running Jaws. We had Back to the Future. We had all these. Disney was like, oh yeah, you can show all of our old movies, but they were also running them on television. And so we tried that, but again, it's not viable. People kind of want to see something new.
Right.
And that they were. That just was not as exciting. I mean, it is fun to watch something on a big screen
Absolutely.
that you probably watched as a kid or on television, or you want to see Close Encounters on the Third Kind as it was intended. But I mean, it's just there's few people who really will pay up for that, day in and day out. So and then that kind of situation gave them. The studios this sort of doomsday plan that I think that they may have imagined, and then let's put this in place now, like now that we have no place to show our movies. And so Disney Plus had come out a few years before, but they really ramped things up. Of course, Amazon Prime, I think that had been around for at least 10 years, but Paramount Plus and the Peacock Network and all these streaming programs that really, and with this idea of theaters, you don't know who you're sitting next to, you don't know what their vaccination status is, it's all dark and everything. That whole idea of community, I think, just
dissipated.
So,
but people are starting to come out again, slowly starting to come out again. And I try to grab my friends and say, hey, let's go to the show, because I get restless. There's only so much you can stay home, I think. So I really like to go out. Do you see all the shows that come in,
No,
Peter?
I wish I did. I on a day off, sometimes I joke, like, I haven't seen a movie since Jaws, which isn't really true.
So you're like the proverbial bus driver.
I really anywhere else on a day off, but on occasion I'll come in and see something. But I really, it's nice to see people at the theater, and you and your family, and there's many people like you that come in consistently, and I'll catch little snippets of movies from every now and then.
What's your favorite movie that's showing right now, or don't you have a sense of that?
I think, we're going to be getting a movie called Parallel Mothers.
I don't know that story.
Penelope Cruz.
Okay.
Pedro Almodovar. So again, when I was in high school, and our French classes would come to the theater, and they would see these wonderful Marcel Pagnol movies with Gerard Depardieu and Yves Montand. Gerard Depardieu, I think that may have been the very beginning of his career, because he seemed like he was in every French movie I ever saw as a kid. But he was just very prolific, and in the 80s, that's when that, I guess, started. But now the movies are there's much more racy content, and they're not quite
appropriate,
as fulfilling. Okay. So yeah, I just got very eager to try to recreate some of that for the theater, and bringing the foreign language groups to the school, to the theater, in the same way that I was exposed to in the 80s.
It's so helpful.
But what's available is maybe a little inappropriate for Pedro Almodovar movies are kind of they're somewhat racy in their topic, but that's a part of a culture, and that's learning about a culture. And I think what my teachers would have said in the past is that's all about learning about different values.
Exactly.
And a little nudity here and there it's just a flop of skin, and it's a this and a that. But who knows where we land today. But I've thrown it out there to the high schools and the Conn College and Mitchell College, the professors, and at least they all know about it. And I think that the newspaper, they always do a nice profile on the newer movies that come out. In the Thursday paper, they do a nice profile.
So the movies that are in French, are they English subtitles then? Or
yes.
So that's nice.
I think it seems that people are kind of not as interested or not as patient as they used to be in foreign movies. They don't like reading. People don't like reading subtitles.
Oh, I do.
I do too.
Guess.
Voiceover seems like such an awful. Yeah. No, we had a German movie called Das Boot, which I'm sure you've heard of, and that ran for many, many, many weeks at the theater, and it's from the perspective of a German submarine that's getting fired on by the Americans. And so in this community with the sub base and all these Navy people and Coast Guard people,
it's very relevant.
It had and it just ran and ran and ran. And our neighbor, Mrs. Niebelong, who's no longer with us, but she promised my father, she said, I'm going to get everyone at the Lutheran Church to show up.
Nice.
And this is a really important movie. I think people need to see here in town. And a lot of people that say that to us, oh, I think we could really get a bunch of people. But I don't know. We were kind of, I think at that point, pitching about trying to figure out the business back in the early 80s when they had just sort of taken over the theater. They were still trying to figure out what works here.
Yeah, sure.
And so Frau Nebelong knew as well as anyone else, but she really did know. She was right on. And there's a few movies, foreign movies, that have been like that for us, really strong, lasted weeks and weeks and weeks, for months. The Gods Must Be Crazy, if you remember that.
No, I didn't see that one.
A soda bottle falls out of an airplane onto this little village in Kenya, and all the people in Kenya are just like, oh, they think it's from heaven.
Sure, of course.
They start making decorations and all kinds of things.
Oh, interesting.
And then they all start fighting over it, and they decide that it needs to just be taken back to the big city and gotten rid of, because it's become this divisive thing in this village.
Yeah.
So there's a charming story that's told in a very, simple way. And that just played, and you just don't have that anymore. You don't have the energy in movies to really last very long. I mean, we've played Spider-Man about a month now. It's been about a month and a few days, 17th of December. And I mean, it could have left 2 weeks ago and it would have been fine. I mean, it's just the lifespan of things is so limited. I mean, there's so many outlets for people now to get entertainment, and so.
But I still think there's nothing like going to the movie and going with your friends or family, whoever, just getting a group together and just having that opportunity. We only have a couple of minutes left, Peter. So I had a list of things to talk to you about, and we only got to the first couple. So
it's just nice to chat with you.
It's good, and
Pleasure.
I'll just have to have you come back sometime.
Oh, thank you.
But any last thoughts? Like, what do you want our youth to know, or next generation? What, like, work ethic? I always think, how do we teach our young people to be responsible?
I had so many jobs growing up. I had like 14 jobs, I think, by the time I moved to New York, and then I think I came home to Niantic, and I was like up to 18 at that point. Like, I think you just kind of got to keep trying things, and the world tells you what's right, and you feel it. I mean, writing to me and journal writing has always been very important to me, and I got that a lot from my teachers in school. I got a lot of positive input from teachers, and that helped me and gave me a lot of energy. So I think for kids, just listen to your family, your friends, your teachers, and the world's telling you something, and just respond to it and keep aware of that.
Thank you. I like that. And with that, we can draw a close. Yeah.
Great.
And I think clarity comes with writing. And I think I like that. So Peter, you've been a lovely guest.
Thank you so much
for being here with me today.
Thank you, Kate.